My girlfriend said, "Your dreams don't pay bills, grow up," I replied. "Then stop planning to live off them." That night I boxed her stuff and filed the loan alone. 3 weeks later I got approved, and the same dream she mocked was suddenly the life she wanted back. I'm Cole, 33, and I work as a commercial electrician in Tampa. My ex, Aubrey, is 29 and works in event marketing. We were together a little over 2 years, and for the last 10 months she'd been living in my duplex. Mortgage in my name, utilities in my name. Garage in my name too, which mattered more than either of us realized at the time. For almost a year and a half, I'd been building toward one thing. My own company, not some vague fantasy. Not one of those "someday I'll be rich" speeches people make over beers and forget by Monday. I had an actual plan. I had an LLC filed. I had a spreadsheet with startup costs down to zip ties and label makers. I had $28,400 saved from side jobs, overtime, and saying no to a lot of things I could have said yes to. I was pricing used vans. I was talking to a lender about a small business loan. I already had a name picked out and a logo draft sitting in a folder on my laptop. Aubrey liked the dream when it sounded romantic. Late-night talks on the patio. Me saying I wanted to build something with my own name on it. Her leaning against my shoulder saying she believed in me. But the closer it got to being real, the less cute she found it. She hated the early mornings. Hated that I skipped expensive weekends. Hated that I'd rather put $2,000 into tools than a rooftop hotel stay. She'd call it my garage empire in this little voice she used when she wanted to sound supportive and insulting at the same time. Still, I kept going, quietly. Methodically. I thought once it launched, she'd understand. That was my mistake. The night it ended, we were at a steak place in Hyde Park with her friend Kelsey and Kelsey's boyfriend, Drew. Nothing dramatic at first. Normal dinner. Normal conversation. Then Drew asked how my business thing was coming along, and I said I'd gotten a conditional approval from the lender. Just needed one more document packet and proof of insurance quotes. I wasn't bragging, I was actually excited. I'd been working toward that moment for months. Kelsey smiled and said, "That's huge." Aubrey laughed, not a nervous laugh, not a quick little slip, a real laugh. Leaned back, wine glass in hand, amused with herself. Then she said, "Your dreams don't pay bills, grow up." The table went quiet. I looked at her. She kept going. She said, "Seriously, Cole, you're 33. At some point this little dream has to stop being everybody else's problem. We can't build a real life around your garage fantasy." Everybody else's problem. That part stayed with me, because I paid the mortgage, I paid the power bill, I paid for the insurance on the place, the groceries most weeks, the repairs, the internet, the lawn guy, half the dinners she posted like we were living some perfect life. Aubrey chipped in here and there, sure, but she had never once carried the weight of my dream. She just expected a front row seat if it worked. I set my napkin down and said, "Then stop planning to live off them." I didn't raise my voice, didn't lecture, didn't ask what she meant. I just stood up, put cash on the table for my food, and left. By the time I got to my truck, she was calling. I let it ring. Then the text started. "Come back, you're being dramatic." I was joking. "Don't embarrass me in front of people like this." "Cole, answer me." I drove home. And for the first time in months, everything felt simple. At the house, I went straight into motion. Closet first. Dresser second. Bathroom after that. I packed her clothes into 4 suitcases, folded and clean. Shoes in 2 tote bags. Makeup and skincare in a plastic bin. Laptop stand, hair tools, candles, those decorative pillows that served no purpose except taking up space, all of it. I even packed the framed print she'd hung in my hallway that said "Dream Bigger" in gold letters. I almost laughed when I took it off the wall. By 11:30, everything she owned was lined up in the garage beside the door. I left one note on the kitchen counter. "You were right about one thing, bills matter, so does respect. Your things are packed. Pick them up by Saturday at noon. After that, I'll put them in storage and send you the bill." Cole, then I sat down at my table, opened my laptop, and uploaded the final documents to the lender. No speech, no revenge montage, just paperwork. Aubrey came home around midnight and used her key like nothing had changed. She saw the suitcases first, then the note. Then me sitting at the table finishing the insurance form. She stared at everything and said, "Are you serious?" I said, "Very." She switched fast. Anger first, said I was insane, said I was overreacting, said I was proving her point by acting unstable over one comment. Then tears, then the softer voice, the one meant to sound reasonable. "Cole, you know I didn't mean it like that." I looked at her and said, "You meant it exactly how you said it." She stood there another minute waiting for me to crack. I didn't. Finally, she called Kelsey on speaker, crying before Kelsey even answered. Then she left with 2 bags and said she'd get the rest later. The next morning, I changed the garage keypad, canceled the extra key fob, removed her from the grocery card I'd added her to months earlier, and priced a climate-controlled storage unit just in case. The place felt weirdly quiet, empty in spots, but lighter. That was the original post, Update 1, 5 days later. Aubrey had been staying with Kelsey, which I only knew because Kelsey texted me from an unknown number when I blocked Aubrey's main one. Kelsey wrote, "I know you're hurt, but she said you threw her out over a misunderstanding. Maybe just cool off and talk." I responded once. She didn't say I was hurt. She said my dream was a joke and that I needed to grow up in front of people. I took her seriously. Kelsey never replied after that. Aubrey did, though, from email, from another number. From a work messaging app I'd forgotten she could use. Same pattern every time. First I was cruel, then I was cold. Then I was the love of her life, and she couldn't believe I'd throw away 2 years over one bad sentence. Funny how the sentence only became small after it cost her something. Saturday morning, she came for the rest of her stuff. She wore one of my old hoodies and brought coffee like we were on the verge of reconciliation instead of a pickup window. "I thought maybe we could talk after I load up," she said. I told her, "There's nothing to talk about." She started crying before she even lifted a box, not sobbing. Controlled crying. The kind where the tears are real enough to photograph. She said she'd been stressed. Said Kelsey and Drew had been fighting all week and she'd taken that energy into dinner. Said she was scared of my business because if it failed, it would change both our lives. I said, "You don't get to insult me and then call it fear." Then she hit me with the line that told me everything. "I always thought once it worked, we'd both be okay." There it was. I asked her if she hurt herself. She got quiet. Her brother Mason had come with her to help load things, and even he looked uncomfortable. He hadn't said much up to that point, just hauled boxes. But when she kept pushing, he finally said, "Aubrey, let it go." I noticed that. Unexpected ally, didn't expect it from him. She took everything except 3 bags of winter clothes, a mirror, and a blender she suddenly claimed she didn't care about. By noon, she was gone. That Monday, Dana from the lender called. I thought something was wrong. Instead, she said my file was approved for $42,000. Enough for the used Ford Transit I'd been watching, the first 6 months on a small warehouse unit near Iber, shelving, inventory, insurance, and a cushion. I sat in my truck outside the supply house and just stared at the steering wheel for a minute. Approved. All those mornings. All those skipped weekends. All those side jobs where I came home dusty and dead tired. Approved. I bought the van 3 days later for $17,800. White, plain, high mileage, but solid. I signed the warehouse lease the same afternoon, 900 square feet. Roll-up door, ugly as sin, beautiful to me. Word got around faster than I expected because I posted one photo, just the van. No caption except "built from overtime." Aubrey saw it. That was when the tone changed. Suddenly, the woman who said dreams didn't pay bills started sending messages about how proud she'd always been, how she knew I could do it, how maybe we'd both said things we didn't mean. Then came the run-ins. Coffee shop near Kennedy on Thursday. She was already there when I walked in somehow. Hardware store on Saturday. She turned the aisle and froze like it was fate. Grocery store Sunday night. Same story. Same wounded expression. Same "can we please just talk for 5 minutes?" No, I kept it moving. By the second week after the breakup, I was sleeping better than I had in months. I was painting shelves in the warehouse at night and filing permit paperwork on my lunch breaks. I was tired, but it was clean tired, productive tired, not relationship tired. Then update 2 happened. About 3 weeks after the dinner, Dana emailed me and asked if I'd like to explain a message she'd received from someone close to me with concerns. Attached was an email from Aubrey. She said she was my long-term partner, said I was making impulsive decisions, said I had a pattern of obsessive behavior, said she was worried I was spiraling financially and hoped the bank would pause any reckless lending until he's in a healthier headspace. I read it twice. Then I laughed, not because it was funny, because it was so shameless I almost had to respect it. Almost. I called Dana immediately. She was calm, told me not to worry, said the business was in my name and the underwriting was based on my documents, not an ex-girlfriend's opinion. But she also said, very professionally, that I might want to document everything going forward. So I did. I saved the dinner texts, the emails, screenshots of the unknown numbers. Doorbell footage from the morning Aubrey lingered outside my house for 14 minutes without knocking, the fake run-ins, everything. Then she sent me a Venmo request for $32.40. The note said, branding ideas, unpaid support, emotional labor, sacrifice. I wish I were kidding. I declined it with one sentence. You mocked it before it was real. You don't invoice me now that it is. That set her off. Her friend Leela messaged me saying I owed Aubrey because she had stood by me when I was nothing. I nearly responded, then didn't. Nothing is a funny word to use about a licensed electrician with a mortgage, good credit, and a business loan approval sitting in his inbox. A few days later, Aubrey showed up at my warehouse while I was unloading conduit. She was dressed like she used to dress when she wanted to look effortless. Jeans, white tank, ponytail, little gold hoops. She walked in carrying a pastry box from the Cuban place I liked. I didn't even let her get through the speech. She said, I brought breakfast. Can we just start over? I said, no. She looked around the warehouse at the shelves, the new inventory, the van outside with temporary magnetic signs on the doors, and I saw it happen in real time. Regret, not over me, over timing. She said, you really did it. I said, yes. Then she said, I was with you before any of this. That has to count for something. I told her it counted. You spent it. She cried, again, said she was scared, said I shut her out. Said if I'd just been more patient, we could have had this together. Together. That word again. Always after the risk was over. I asked her to leave. She didn't. I asked again. She said she wasn't going anywhere until we had an adult conversation. So I called the property manager, then the non-emergency line. By the time the officer arrived, Aubrey had shifted into the victim voice. Calm, trembling, acting confused, said she was only there to talk to her boyfriend. I said, ex-girlfriend. The officer asked if I wanted her trespassed from the property. I said yes. Her face changed when she realized there was paperwork attached now, not emotion. Paperwork. She left before it got uglier, but not before saying, you'll regret treating me like this when you calm down. I didn't regret a thing. My lawyer sent a cease and desist the next week for the harassment, the lender email, and the warehouse incident. Cost me $425. Money well spent. Final update. It's been a little over 3 months since the dinner. The company is open. Actually open. Licensed, insured, operating, invoices going out every Friday. First full month billed just over $18,000. After expenses, fuel, insurance, permit fees, and payroll for the part-time helper I brought on, I cleared a little over $7,300. Not retire early money, not fantasy money. Real money, Bill's money, dream money too, apparently. Aubrey tried one more time after the cease and desist. She mailed a handwritten letter to my house. No threats, no drama, just a lot of selective memory. She wrote that she'd always believed in my potential and that maybe success had made me hard. She said she missed who we were before stress and pride got in the way. I didn't answer. 2 weeks later, Mason called, not to defend her, to apologize. He said, "I'm not getting in the middle. I just wanted to say you didn't deserve what she said. And for what it's worth, she's telling people she practically built this business. That's not how it looked from where I was standing." I thanked him. That same month, I started seeing Lee. She's 31, runs accounts for a plumbing supplier, and the first thing she ever said to me about the business was, "You look happiest when you're talking about it." That was it. No eye roll, no little smile, no hidden insult dressed like realism. Just observation, support, peace. Aubrey heard about Lee through mutual friends and apparently lost her mind a little. Leela sent one final message saying it was crazy how fast I'd moved on. I blocked her too. People always call it moving on too fast when they expected you to stay available for their version of the story. The last real thing I heard was through Kelsey, ironically enough. Aubrey had started telling people I used her for emotional support and discarded her once the business launched. Kelsey, to her credit, finally corrected it. She texted me that she'd seen the original messages now and understood why I left dinner. She said she should have asked questions before taking sides. That mattered more than I thought it would, not because I needed vindication. I had the warehouse, the van, the customer list, the invoices, the quiet house. I had all the proof I needed, but because lies get heavy when enough people help carry them. The house feels different now, better. My hallway is blank except for one framed business license. The garage has parts and ladders in it now, not decorative storage benches Aubrey found online and wanted me to build for free. My table has bids spread across it at night. Sometimes Lee brings takeout and sits there doing her own work while I finish estimates. It's calm, no performance, no pretending. That's the thing I learned. Some people love your dream most when it's still small enough for them to mock, because as long as it stays small, they stay bigger. They can joke about it, manage it, position themselves above it. But the second it becomes real, the second it starts turning into something solid, they rush to stand under the shelter of it and act like they helped pour the concrete. Aubrey didn't want the hard part. She wanted the finished version, the stable version. The version with invoices and momentum, and maybe one day a beach trip she could post about captioning how proud she was. She wanted the reward of belief without ever doing the believing. That's what her sentence really exposed. Your dreams don't pay bills. Grow up. What she meant was, stop building a future I can't control yet. She was wrong. The bills are getting paid. The lights are on. The van is mine. The warehouse is mine. The peace is mine too. And the best part is, so is the dream. If you've ever had someone mock what you were building and then reach for it once it started working, tell me in the comments. Subscribe, like, and share if you want more stories like this, and let me know whether you think I did the right thing or what you would have done.